So West Virginia lawmakers just introduced a bill that would let the state sell machine guns to regular law-abiding citizens. Yeah, you heard that right.
As we enter the home stretch of this year's West Virginia legislative session, 2 senators have introduced a bill that would allow the state to sell firearms to its citizens. Under a new bill filed Monday by Senators Chris Rose of Monongalia County and Zach Maynard of Lincoln County, the state would create the Office of Public Defense within the West Virginia State Police, which would oversee the transfer of machine guns to anyone who was able to purchase and possess firearms within the state. Firearms would be distributed under the bill include AR-15s, M249s, and MP5 firearms.
All right, so what you just watched sounds insane on its face. A state creating an office inside of the state police to transfer machine guns to civilians. Most people stop there. They either think this is revolutionary brilliance or reckless madness. But what's actually happening here is neither of those things. It's a legal pressure test. Let's start with the core idea behind it. The bill claims that its intention is to interpret the Second Amendment to guarantee armament parity between the American citizens and the government infantrymen. That word parity is not accidental. For decades, gun control policy has operated on an unspoken assumption. The government gets modern military arms, the citizens do not. This bill is challenging that assumption directly. Now, if you're new to gun laws, here's the background most people never really explain. In 1934, Congress passed the National Firearms Act. That didn't ban machine guns, it regulated them through registration and taxation. In 1986, Congress passed what's known as the Hughes Amendment. That effectively froze the civilian machine gun registry. No newly manufactured machine guns after May 19, 1986 can be transferred to civilians. That's why transferable machine guns are absurdly expensive today. Limited supply, artificial cap. Kind of like the diamond industry. For almost 40 years, everyone has treated that as permanent. But here's the part almost nobody talks about. The statute contains an exemption. The National Firearms Act of 1934 and the Gun Control Act of 1968, as amended, permit state governments to transfer machine guns to law-abiding citizens. Specifically, federal law permits a transfer to or by or possession by or under the authority of the United States or any department or agency thereof, or a state or department agency or political subdivision thereof. That's the hinge. Federal law prohibits civilian possession of post-86 machine guns, but it does not apply to transfer to or by a state. So what West Virginia is doing is simple in structure, even if it's bold in effect. The state becomes the transferor. Instead of a private dealer transferring a machine gun to a citizen, which would violate the ban, the state creates an office that acquires machine guns and transfers them under state authority. It's not nullification, it's not ignoring federal law, it's using the exact exemption Congress wrote into federal law. Now, here's why that matters. If the exemption language is real, if it has legal weight, then a transfer conducted by a state is lawful under the text. If it doesn't work that way, then the exemption is effectively meaningless. That's what this bill forces into the open. Now, historically, this idea isn't coming out of nowhere. At the founding, the militia wasn't a small group unit. It was the people. The Militia Act of 1792 required military-age men to provide their own military-grade arms and ammunition. During multiple periods in American history, governments sold surplus military rifles directly to civilians. The civilian marksmanship program did it in the 20th century. States have armed citizens before, during wartime, and emergency. The underlying philosophy has always been that the people are not supposed to be technologically inferior to the government's infantry. That's not a radical idea. That's a historically documented one. Now, fast forward to today, modern infantry arms include select fire rifles and light machine guns. So the legal and philosophical tension becomes obvious. If the Second Amendment protects arms in common military use, and if the militia is the people, and if federal law exempts transfers conducted by a state, then what exactly prevents a state from structuring a program like this? That's the confrontation. This bill is not symbolic. It creates an operational framework. Machine guns shall be made available for sale and transfer at each state police troop headquarters located throughout the state. Eligibility does not change. Qualified person means any person who is eligible to purchase and possess firearms under West Virginia and federal law. So this isn't eliminating background checks. It isn't eliminating disqualifiers. It isn't removing prohibited person laws. It changes one thing: who conducts the transfer. And there's a funding structure attached to it as well. The director shall add a $250 surcharge to the total price of each machine gun sold and transferred under this act, which shall be paid into the Public Defense Fund. That surcharge funds the program. Now, let's talk about reality. If this passes and implementation begins, the ATF is not going to clap and send flowers. This will be challenged. The federal government will likely argue that the exemption was never intended to allow downstream civilian possession through state intermediaries. They will argue intent, but courts interpret text, and the text says transfer to or by a state. That's why this is important. It's not about theatrics, it's not about shock value, it's about forcing clarity. Either Congress wrote an exemption that means something, or they wrote decorative language. And if the exemption does mean something, then the post-86 machine gun restriction is not as airtight as people have been told for 40 years. This bill is not reckless, it is strategic. It works inside the statute, it uses federalism, it leverages textual interpretation, and it forces the Department of Justice into a choice: defend the plain language of the law or argue that the plain language doesn't operate the way it reads. That's why I support it. Not because I think everyone is suddenly going to be walking around with bell feds next week, even though I wouldn't have a problem with that, but because this is how constitutional questions get resolved. One state tests the boundaries, litigation follows, courts clarify. For decades, the machine gun ban has existed in practical silence. West Virginia turned the lights on, and now we find out whether that exemption was real or whether it was always just ink on paper. And oh, in case you're wondering, yeah, my hat does say I am the militia with the actual Second Amendment written in the background. Because, as I've always said, you are your own first responder. No one's coming to save you. And when the Second Amendment said the militia, they were talking about you and I, not the government. So stop letting people lie to you and tell you this bullshit that when the Second Amendment was written, it said the militia, which is the military. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's you. It's me. It's them. It's everybody. It's us. It's the civilians, the people. Right here. I am the militia. You are the militia. So don't forget that. And head over to shop.mrcolionnoir.com and grab your I am the militia hat. We have them in shirts. We have them in hoodies. We have them in drinkware. You name it, we have it. I am the militia. I love this design. It's awesome. It's just a daily reminder that you are the one responsible for your safety. One thing's for certain and two things are for sure. Politicians and tech giants don't want gun content to be recommended to you. And we're all fighting this culture war together. Now, you can help do your part by liking, commenting, subscribing to the channel, but most importantly, sharing this video with at least one person. Together, we can stop the suppression of our 2A rights. And don't forget to click the link in the description section of this video for the products that I mentioned in this video.